Nathalie Filler coming right at you, folks, front and center. Here she comes. There she is. Hello, young lady. How are you?
Hey.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome. That's great. Super. I'm just turning up my volume so I can hear you. Anyways, how was your day today?
It was great. How was yours?
Good. Yeah, I just got back from a nice long walk with my wife and my dog. So, and I get to hang with you for an hour, which is like super cool. And Facebook Live is working tonight. This is the best part about it. So it's like super cool. So we're streaming live on my feed, on my page. First of all, so nice to see you. And everybody, little introduction. This young lady on the other side of the screen, a rock star in her own right. We've been friends for just a little over a year and colleagues, and really got to know her through social media, believe it or not. And the really cool part about it is once that social media thing finished, we stayed friends and colleagues. And it's really great to watch and get to know someone who is trending in a really cool direction. She has a really cool way that she delivers everything to everybody online. And I mean, if you aren't already following Natty Golf on Instagram, you should. She has tons of great content, and you know what, is a great coach and also a great person. And I'm really looking forward to getting in a little bit tonight. So again, thanks so much for joining us, bud.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. What was your day like today? What did you do?
I taught some golf lessons, both online and in person.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's great. So a little background on you. Going to give everybody a little bit of background, right? You won the New England Amateur when you were going to university at the Delaware University, right? That must have been pretty cool. Yeah, that's awesome. You also played, so you played for 4 years at Delaware, which is, I actually met the coach last year at US Junior. And I actually have a connection where a friend of mine from high school, a rival high school that I played against, actually played basketball at Delaware. So, I mean, you know, he's a little older than you. But anyways, my biggest thing is there's a couple little cool little caveats here that are really neat. Is that Susie Whaley was your coach growing up?
She was, yeah.
She was. And, you know, you're one of those 300 that she's helped to get D1 scholarships. And it's kind of really neat that when you said that to me, I was like, wow, what was that like? And I mean, what was that like having her as your coach? Like, she seems, I mean, I talked to her on Monday and she seems so, you know, knowledgeable and all that stuff, but really she's so competitive, as she self said. Is she competitive when she's working like with you as her coach?
I don't know that that's really the right word. I mean, of course, you know, she's a super competitive person. Their whole family is very competitive. Her daughter, Jen, is the same age as I am. And then Kelly is a couple of years younger than us. So I played competitive golf with both her daughters, which is how we got connected originally. I was working with another coach in Connecticut up until maybe 6th grade or 7th grade. And then switched over. I was really struggling and played in this tournament at Bethpage, and the weather was horrible. And I think Kelly might have played in it too, but Susie was there, and I really played so badly. And I got in the car and I was like crying. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was like crying. I'm like, I can't even play golf. What am I doing? Like the whole thing, you know? And so, my mom and Susie had talked a little bit. And so I ended up sitting down, meeting with her. I think we maybe got like coffee or something and just talked about kind of what I wanted to do with my game and if maybe she would be a good fit as my coach. And then I started working with her. So the rest is history. I spent a lot of time with her and her husband, Bill. They both are very similar in terms of how they coach. So
I hear Bill's like the player in the family, like 80 wins or professional wins or something like that. The guy's a baller. Holy cow. Hey?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I thought she was the gamer in the family. No, hubby's like hubby's like the gamer. Hard, man. Wow. That's really cool. So you have two sisters who are younger than you, Emma and Maisie. Maisie just signed a scholarship to go to, help me, where she's going.
University of Florida.
University of Florida. I thought that's where it was. Yes. Yeah, Gators. I should have worn my Gator hat. Dang. Well, that's cool. That's a great thing for her, and I'm so happy to that she's a. It's funny when I said to you that she. I honestly thought that, you know, she might take a run at you and has beaten you, but you don't let that happen, eh?
I mean, we're both super competitive, in a
We'll
very
get into
loving
that a
way,
little
safe.
later. We can come back to that. It's okay. I got
Okay.
another question for you. It's okay.
Yeah.
All right, mom
Yeah.
and dad.
I won't admit it if she's ever beaten me.
Oh, there you go. Okay, there you go. Mom Jen, Dad Andrew. You know what? You worked at the Philadelphia Cricket Club in Old Palm, at least most recently, and then you know, one interesting thing is that in your season, you made, you know, second team all conference, which, I mean, that's an accomplishment. Think about all the teams in the conference, right? I mean, you know, you get chosen and to do that, and playing is something that you've always really enjoyed, and you really, you know, find that even now when you know, if I catch you and you're heading to a pro-am, it's like you're super excited to go play and compete and all that stuff. Do you ever get butterflies?
Oh yeah, every time.
Really?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you care at all, you should. I think
True.
that's what happens. If you don't care, then maybe not. But you know, I want to play well. I really enjoy working on my game and going and competing. So, of course,
Nice, nice. How's Justin?
he's
Right.
good.
Good. Awesome.
Yes,
Tell him he
thank you
should
for
have checked his
asking.
Instagram. I messaged him today to get some secrets on you. He didn't get back.
Uh-oh.
A little upset. Little,
Oh, he was working all day, so
that's okay. I'll let it slide. I'll
he's
let it slide.
not on the
All right.
gram.
So listen, this week, thank you for joining us on Women in Golf Week. I've had all kinds of people on this on my chats, and it's been great. And you know, the reason for this is I don't really think there's a better showcase to really show that, you know, as far as, you know, golf minds and, you know, coaches and you know, whether you're a CEO, whether you're a GM or a president or an executive, right? You know, battling this gender issue in golf, right, it's been it's been around for a very long time, and it's really interesting because I think that women have a really a bigger stronghold in a lot of different ways, and that's why I wanted to do a Women in Golf Week. But you started that at a very early age. You were the captain of the boys' high school golf team in high school. How did that go down? How did they feel about having you as the high school captain, as the captain of their team?
Yeah, so before I had been there, I went to a boarding school for high school. And so before I had gone there, they hadn't had a women's golf team. They didn't have any interest in it. And I was super interested in playing, obviously. So they said, you can be on the boys team, and that's fine. And I got to play from one tee up. Well, it turns out, too, that another girl, Eliza Breed, who's actually Michael Breed's niece, went there as well. So the two of us were on the boys team. She was a year ahead of me. We were both super competitive. I would say we were probably the best players on the team. And, so she didn't really have a ton of interest in doing the whole like captain's thing. She played in college for a few years, I believe. But yeah, my senior year got voted the captain, so that was cool.
That's very cool. That's
but I
very
never
cool.
really, yeah.
So why do you think that, you know, like it's still like in talking last night with Leslie Hawkins from Adidas Golf Canada. You know, she brought some stats to light that were very interesting, and I mean, like she said something like really only like 4% of the dollars and the showcase and stuff really go to women in sport. Like it's like 4% of the top dollars go to women in sport. And you see in tennis how there's a parity in their purses, right? Well, do you think there will ever be a chance that the LPGA might, you know, ever get closer? I mean, they're playing for the most money they've ever played for now, but do you think there's a chance there could be some evening there, or do you think it's always going to be the guys are a little bit more always out there in front?
That's a hard question to answer, but I mean, the girls are playing for more and more money every year, so I think that's a positive thing. And from what I've heard, I think there's going to be some cool things that will maybe take place due to having so many events canceled. So maybe some bigger purses due to that would be cool.
That'd be very cool.
We'll see. I think that there's some great talent and some cool personalities that are up and coming. And, you know, there was an article that I read a little while back on just that that someone's opinion piece was that they didn't feel like that there was someone to root for on the LPGA tour. There wasn't a face that they could see every single week that they felt like, they could root for. So,
Interesting.
I don't know.
I think
that was sort of
I could
interesting.
name 5 that would have a hard time with that. Lexi Thompson, Brooke Henderson, R.A. Jernigarn, right? Lydia Ko, and Nelly Corda. Like, just to name 5 right off the bat. Like, I mean, how do you not root for any of those 5, right? Like,
or how about the whole Solheim Cup team?
Yeah, pretty much it. Exactly.
And being at, we went to the Solheim Cup last year because Justin coaches Brittany Altamare, who's on the Solheim Cup team.
Oh, very cool.
So being at that event was really cool because I've not been to a women's sports event that was as big as that was. I mean, there were a ton of people there, and I would say majority of them were women that were watching, which was really cool. But the excitement and the energy and all that around a women's sporting event was.
Well, I mean, where were you sitting when Suzanne Pedersen makes that putt?
Yeah, we were right next to the green on 18.
Like, exactly, like the electricity, right? I mean, it could have been a better story for her. I mean, sorry, Americans, you guys didn't win, but at the same time, it's like, oh my god, because wasn't she playing Altamare? Is that who she was playing?
No, she was playing on Marina Alex.
Oh, that's right. Same.
Yeah. Sorry. But it all happened fast. It was like it seemed like US was going to win, and then we're standing there and we're like, oh my gosh. And then it kept changing and changing and changing because it came down to the last few holes, and then all of a sudden it flipped and it came down to that putt. But it was like, I don't even know if she really knew that it was that putt. So
that's amazing. I mean, you would literally say that it was electricity, right? Like, there's electricity in the air, there's buzz. I mean, that's so cool. How do you not get excited from that? Like, it's just amazing.
Yeah,
right?
It was so cool.
So here's a really cool thing about you that I don't think a lot of people realize that. I mean, people see you on Instagram and, in social media and doing tips and all that stuff, but there's little snippets that you throw out there that maybe people don't really catch on to about you. And one of the things that I admire about you is, women are being recognized for their amazing contributions to inspiring others, role models. You keep going despite maybe getting the naysayers and the people that throw stones at you and sit there and say, oh, she's just fluff and all that stuff. But the one thing I really, really do admire about you is that you put a positive spin on so much of your day, and you always seem to put inspiring things out there. And one of them is that you're part of a wellness group that meets and has Zoom meetings, and you guys talk about you kind of like bettering others and how you can do that. And it's a really inspiring piece that I don't think a lot of people realize, that you're out there helping and basically walking with people who may have struggles to do this. And the really cool thing about it is they only see what they want to see, and they don't see that part, and that's a shame. And what is that fuel that fires that in you? What is it? What's driving you for that? Because it's a wonderful trait that you have.
I mean, golf, I love teaching golf. I love helping people have more fun on the golf course, but I think I realized that that's not everything, and people have a life outside of the golf course, and people have struggles and all sorts of things going on in their life. And so my hope is that I can bring a little bit more joy and maybe even help some people better their lives as a whole versus just at the golf course.
So how did you get involved with that to start doing those like group meetings and stuff?
Yeah, so it was actually through Beachbody coaching that I was doing for a while, and I've sort of stepped away from the coaching piece of that through Beachbody, and I'm actually going to start doing some mindset routine kind of coaching going forward, so that's in the works. But that's how I got into it, and doing the morning routine and the personal development and all of those things, and yeah.
Well, it's really cool because like yesterday you posted a photo of you doing your book. What are you grateful for? And again, it takes a lot of balls to do that. And I'm saying that straight up. I mean, because not a lot of people like putting themselves out there like that. And I know you're not doing it for as a image thing, because it's part of you and who you are inside. And the really interesting thing about this is that, you know, Adidas has a cool stat about social media and women who like tag Adidas in their social media and women athletes. All right. $9 million is the value of their tagging across all their tagging, right? So, I mean, it's a really cool thing. Their value in their retail space would essentially be equivalent to an advertising dollars of $9 million of advertising. It's just unbelievable how this social media, you know, allows you to reach so many different people. You, okay, in a very short time, have amassed a very nice following of 20,000 people on Instagram, okay? If you go through your page, it's just wonderful. It's great content. And a really cool thing, it's consistent content, meaning that the frames are the same. You can tell when it's instruction. You can tell when it's a motivation. You can tell when it's something different. And you know what? It's a really cool thing. And that's why you, right, are approached by companies to, you know, wear their stuff and rep their stuff. And I asked you this a little earlier today, but, you know, I know you haven't really been able to track any of your stuff, but do you have any stories about how, you know, some of these partnerships that you've had have come back to you and said, hey, or have you been able to say, hey, look, you know, because of this and because they saw me on my page, you know, I was able to push this sale or something to that effect?
I don't know that I really have any like direct sales stuff. I mean, some of the clothes that I wear, and to be honest with you, 87% of the people that follow me are men. So it's a little bit tricky. And that's what I think a lot of women who are in the golf space on Instagram struggle with, because, you know, why would somebody pay me to wear their clothes or whatever, when so few of the people that are following me would really be buying them. But I do get a lot of the comments on like, hey, I really like your skirt. Where did you get it? And like, I'll tag whoever, you know, wherever I got it from. So I think people buy stuff through that. I know I wear a ton of the G4 stuff and love to support 4A golf, and I wear some Adidas stuff. I kind of wear a lot of everything, but I'll always tag those people. And I think that just only helps their business. I don't really know that I am getting any direct benefit from it. I get free clothes sometimes, which is great, but you know, I've sort of come to realize I'm just happy to, you know, support some of these businesses that are maybe smaller businesses, or, you know, just share what I'm doing, what I know.
Well, that's great. I mean, here's the thing. Did you think you would be at 20K, or did you think you'd have more right now?
I don't even know. I mean, I didn't really set out to be like, oh, I'm going to hit, you know, X amount of followers.
Right.
I just started sharing what I was doing. The most influential thing to me, or kind of the reason I started doing all of the golf tip type stuff, was I don't listen to him as much anymore, but Gary Vaynerchuk, or Gary V. And one thing he said on one of the podcasts I listened to, or he was really harping on a lot at the time, was just record everything that you do. Like, and I was in, you know, over on the East Coast of Florida, practicing and playing in tournaments. And I was like, oh, I'll just, you know, record this drill that I'm doing, or record what I'm working on my swing and put it up as a golf tip. Like, okay. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was just sort of like messing around with editing and like, you know, I'm posting random stuff, which, by the way, I look back now at some of the stuff I posted 4 years ago and I'm like, but
like, it's like, oh my
yeah,
God.
like, oh boy, I should probably put down. I have taken some stuff down actually too. But yeah, I mean, that's just how I started, and it sort of has developed into, I started Tip Tuesday with 4A Golf.
Yeah.
And that's kind of developed into my thing. And so there's been a lot of fun stuff along the way, but ultimately it's really just helped me be able to connect with people faster, I think. So, you know, someone's coming to the area that I'm teaching in, they can send me a note and say, hey, I'd love to come take a lesson from you because they've been following me.
Right.
Or when I got a new job, You can go send that out. You know, they can see my social media before I even get there, and they can kind of get an idea of who I am and what I'm about, and decide if they like me or not or whatever before I get there.
For sure.
Which has really been a good thing in most
That's
cases.
good. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's really interesting because it's not easy. I think a lot of people think that filming tips and putting it up and doing all the trimming it and you know, like, you get really good at, like, typically I get to the point where I'm really good on my first take. Like my first take, if I can get my first take good, awesome, right? But I mean, when you start having to do like 8, 9, 10 takes and you keep fumbling and that starts becoming a gong show, it's like, oh my gosh. And you're out there and it's literally not even a minute long tip, right? And you're sitting there and you just keep repeating and you're going, oh my goodness, or like, or a cart drives by or you get the noise or something like that. But the interesting thing here, and this is what a lot of people don't realize, is the amount of work that has to go in behind the scenes. Similar to like how I've been using this term behind the scenes, you know, behind the closed door shots that basketball players put up when people aren't watching. It's like, who's not watching you practice your golf? Well, it's kind of like all the things that go on behind on social media is probably twice, if not 3 times as long, sometimes tedious to get it out and get it right. Agreed?
Yeah.
You and I both
Absolutely.
learned that, you know, it's, you know, you and I both learned, like, through trials and tribulations that, you know, there's a way to do it, and typically doing it our way is probably the most organic, right? And it's like you've definitely had, you know, this, and you can see it when in your tips because you don't change how the structure goes, and it's a really great way to do it. And that's some strategies that I think people can use. What have been, give me like 2 of the biggest things that you always try to do when you're doing your posts?
Like in terms of when I'm filming the tips, you mean,
Yeah, like, what
or
do you
what's
try to always
included?
do with your tips so like they're concise? Do you write them out? Do you script them? Do you kind of just wing it? How do you do it?
Yeah, I would say I'm a minimal planner at best. My mom would pee her pants if she heard me say that, because I am just like, I think I come across as very like put together and organized, but I'm not necessarily. So,
Well,
you
Justin,
know,
give us some proof.
yeah. um, you know, I do go through periods where I kind of like don't have a lot of ideas flowing, and I'll sit down and I'll come up with either like a series of things or topics that I want to write tip or, you know, do tips about. And so I'll write at least a couple of notes out about that. But a lot of the time what happens is I'm teaching, and I'm like, you know, you're when you're teaching, you're thinking and pulling different things and drills and whatever. So usually I come up with something to post from teaching. Um, and it's really no different than what I would say to the person in front of me if I was teaching them and explaining the drill to them. You know, I like to say, if you are somebody who does X, then here's a drill for you and it will help you do Y. So um, the hardest part sometimes is keeping it under a minute for Instagram. That happens to me more often than not, that I go over by just a little bit, and then people message me and they're like, your video cut off, and I'm like, I was trying to make it a minute, leave me alone.
No kidding. You don't know how hard this is. Come on, give us a break. Oh my god.
I'm like,
Right?
do you want to come film for me?
Yes, exactly. Right. Don't be mad. Oh stop it. Leave me alone. Anyways, oh my gosh, I only had like 5 minutes before my next lesson. Come on.
I know.
They don't get it. Exactly.
Break, man.
Oh my gosh. So you and I had some really cool chats about, you know, the golf swing. We've, you know, traded videos and we've talked about it, and, you know, kind of how we found that, you know, helping you kind of find this, how you find the square root, right? You diagnose the golf swing and where's the square root of the golf swing so you can start the person on their, you know, their pathway to success. All right. So what have you been doing over this crazy 6-week time? You know, like, I know you've been, you know, Florida's kind of been kind of funny because some stayed open, some have stayed closed. So you may have been able to still teach. I'm not too sure. But what have been some of the ways that you've been doing to help expand your mind so that you can always do, like I always say with my hashtag, better never stop. So what have you been doing to be better?
I mean, I'm always working on personal development stuff, coaching stuff. I like to read a lot. If you follow me, you know, I read every morning. So that's nothing new. I did just get into the ultimate golf lesson that the biomechanics guys did. online. So there's like, they're still going on, but so I've been watching those, learning from all of that. So that's been great. But
How's
a lot
your
of
brain kind of going like this with all that stuff?
yeah, but it's been good. And, I've been talking to a couple other teachers that I know that have spent a lot of time with Mike and some of those other guys like Terry and them. So it's helped me, I watch it and write some notes and stuff, and then maybe ask them some questions or have a conversation with them. And it's been good. You have to pick and choose, like anything else. You have to pick and choose the pieces of information that you agree with or can actually use with your students. But it's always cool to see, what other people are doing and see the research and all of that.
Has anything kind of stood out to you that's kind of gone, ooh, I want to learn a little bit more of that. That really interests me.
Yeah, the very basic stuff that Mike does is all the testing, measuring the body and the grip styles. And
yeah, the grip style stuff is pretty interesting, eh? How they, how you find, under and over, and, how the face squares up and all that stuff. It's pretty interesting and pretty understanding about, wrist alignments and, how that affects the grip. And I mean, it's really kind of basic, but it's kind of like you sit there and go, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's, the other thing that was interesting to me is understanding based on the way somebody's body looks, which it's kind of stuff that you're like, you listen to it or see it and you're like, oh, duh, like that makes sense. but like, I don't know, I didn't think about it that way before. But, if somebody's got longer arms, their swing's going to look a little bit steeper. And so instead of like, to me, that's helpful because, okay, instead of trying to fix that, then you can let them fly with it. You know what I mean? Or think about helping them fix it in a different way. So I think it's very useful stuff.
Cool. All right. Here's my favorite part of my chats. Fast five. All right. So this is like these are 5 questions. You have no idea what I'm going to ask you, but they're pretty simple and easy. Yeah, I know. You're like, oh my gosh, what are you going to ask me? Yeah, like you're scared. All right. Ready? Here's the first question. You've traveled a lot. So what are 3 things that you must have with you when you travel?
Oh. A book.
Okay.
A good book. My golf clubs.
Okay.
And I don't know, what would be the third one?
Your phone.
Yeah, my phone, I guess. Yeah. That's
yeah,
obvious.
It's kind of obvious, right? I said that to Erica Monique Torres on Monday, and Erica's like, my phone. I do everything on my phone. If it's not me, I'm like lost, right? I was like, that makes a good point. She really did make a good point. All right. I knew this one, so this is going to be good. The name of your favorite book and why?
Oh, I have to pick one?
Yeah, one. One of the biggest ones you've ever read that you've really felt that's influenced you then?
I'm going to go with one I read more recently, and I'm, obviously golf books. I'm just going to say golf books aside because I'm very into the personal development coaching space right now. The Slight Edge. I can't remember the name of the author off the top of my head, but I read that maybe 6 months ago, and it is so good. Just talks about how basically the little things that we do every day are way, way more important than we realize, right? So if you read 10 pages of a book a day, at the end of a year, you've read 20 plus books versus if you read a couple chapters, put it down, maybe you go back to it a week later, it's kind of inconsistent. It's all the little stuff, which is, it applies to golf and it applies to life and so many other things. So there's a lot of really good little nuggets in there that I liked.
For sure. Have you ever read Failing Forward by John Maxwell? Yeah, that's one of my favorite books. Probably just because it's such, if you're not failing on a daily basis, you're not learning, right?
Absolutely.
Right. All right. So you can choose. Listen to this list. Let me know what you think. All right. Butter tarts, pralines, gummy bears, cake, pie, all the above, or something else.
What was the first thing you said?
Butter tarts.
What is that?
Oh, pardon me. Okay, you heard it first, people. She doesn't know what a butter tart is?
What is that?
Oh my goodness. Is this just a Canadian thing? Like, you don't know what a butter tart is? Oh my gosh. All right. You know what? I'm not going to even go there because you know what? A butter tart's a little piece of pastry with a beautiful, like, melted, sugary center. You could put pecans in it, sometimes some walnuts, maybe even some raisins. It's like delish. Wow.
Interesting.
Is this a Canadian thing? I was wondering about it when I actually asked.
I'm ruining your question.
You're not ruining the question because the hilarity is the fact that you don't know what a butter tart is. That's the more important thing. Right?
But to answer your question, I don't know if it was an option, but we've been really eating a lot of popsicles recently.
Oh.
There's a gourmet popsicle place near where we live that has
gourmet popsicles. Only in Florida.
Gourmet. But there's like 50 flavors of popsicles. They're so good.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's fantastic. Me, it's all about ice cream. That's my number one thing. I will die eating ice cream.
I'm lactose intolerant.
Pardon me?
I don't do dairy.
Oh, well, that's okay.
No,
non-dairy ice cream. How's that sound?
They do have that, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Okay. I didn't ask you ice cream. All right, so tell us one thing that you did as a teenager that would surprise us today.
What did I do as a teenager?
Come on, the halo wasn't always straight, was it?
Always.
Come on, you went to a boarding school for crying out loud. There's no chance it's straight.
I'm trying to think of a good one here. I did give, and this isn't anything like embarrassing. I gave the graduation speech at my youngest sister's
graduation?
6th grade graduation. But we all went to this Montessori school for our whole lives, basically all through 6th grade, and I gave the graduation speech.
Great.
Yeah, so that was cool.
That's very cool. All right. What are your top 3 bucket list golf courses you still have to play?
Obviously, Augusta. Mm-hmm. That would be number 1. I am really dying to get to Cabot.
Oh, I know the owner. I teach his kids.
Oh, gotta hook me up.
Exactly.
That's certainly on my list. I would really love to go. I like the idea of playing abroad. We had so much fun when we went to Scotland. I would really love to go back to Ireland. But we didn't get to play at St. Andrews when we were in Scotland. So I would really like to, we got to walk there. So that made me want to play it. So I would love to go back and play there. Yeah.
There's 3 great that's pretty good. Augusta, Cabot, and go to St. Andrews. You keep moving east. That's great. All right. A little surprise question for you. All right. What's hotter? The golf matches between you and your sister Maisie, or the Florida sun in July?
I would say that we're competitive, but we also tend to be like a little lazy when we're together sometimes, because we're very much the same person. And so like we'll go practice, but the 2 of us together could easily make like a 3-hour practice session into an 8-hour practice session for absolutely no reason.
Okay.
But when we play, it's competitive. But I would say we probably practice more than we play together now.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. You and I have had a nice chat about faith, and it plays a large role in who I am in terms of my own personal being. And I find it an interesting thing, if I'm asked about it, or if I find out that a friend or a colleague of mine have a faith background, I find it a little bit easier to talk about it with them. I was having a chat with a good friend of mine the other day who I dragged to church, and he says I was really bugging him to come to church with me, but he hasn't stopped going for the last 2 years, and it's made a huge difference in his life. So, it's been really cool.
Shocking, right?
Right. Oh, shocking. I know. Right. And it's like the really cool part about it is it's not like I'm sitting around, you need to be saved. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just saying, hey, you want to come to church and listen to the sermon? My pastor's awesome, right? Like, just come have a listen. And he kind of said to me, I said to him when I was talking about this week, I go, dude, think about it. Could you go to church, listen to Kevin, and not walk out with a smile on your face? He goes, nah, that's pretty good. Yeah, you're pretty right. Right? Like this. And it's really interesting. But people are still a little timid to chat about their faith in an open way. And you're somebody who does post some things about, your faith and stuff, which is great. Similar to me, I mean, I will post some great, quotes and stuff that I find very powerful and very, effective for myself. But what has faith done for you in your life to help you in both your personal and your professional life?
So I grew up going to church, and not, it was the big white church on the hill kind of thing. You go, you sit in the pews, and, it was fine, but it was sort of boring. And so, we went to church on Sundays, and that's what we did, but I was never really like super interested in it. And then went to college, and one of the girls on my team grew up, going to kind of a more, I would say, modern Christian church. And I ended up eventually getting, after, having some personal stuff go on in college, I had started going and getting more connected with, it was called Delaware Christian Athletes. I forget, there's like two different denominations of like the whole, Christian athletes in college thing, whatever. But, started doing that and got really involved in that, and really, really, found a lot of peace and happiness through doing that. And then kept, going to church. I pretty much moved to Florida during the winters, at least immediately after college. And there are a lot more of the kind of churches I like to go to down here, which are more of the, non-denominational Christian church, maybe a little bit of a Baptist feel. Sure. But, great music and younger people, and it's interactive, and there's a community. And so it's just, it goes along with everything else that I do. I just think that it helps you have a really great mindset, helps you have a good perspective, helps you have empathy for people, which is huge in coaching to me, being able to put myself in someone's shoes and just love people no matter what they're acting like or doing in front of you, because sometimes people are difficult. But just being able to understand kind of, yeah, exactly, kind of where they're coming from. And
you're bringing up a good point. Can I just put a pin in you right there? I really like this point that you're bringing up. Having empathy for somebody or the person that's walking onto your tee deck, similar to a junior for myself or an adult for you. We don't know what's going on in their day. We have no idea what's going on in their life unless we're like really close to them. And the thing that we always have to realize is that, and I think this is often lost in coaching, I think that you always have to keep in mind, it's all about them. It's not about you, right? Because it's their game that you're trying to help them with. And if you can get them to feel really good walking off that tee deck, whatever crap they're going through, whether you've gotten them to hit the ball in the air, solve the grip, whatever it is, maybe just talk with them. Sometimes it's about talking, and you hit 5 golf balls, right? Like, it's really so much different. And that empathy, it really shines through in those moments. So that's a great point of it, because really we are using golf as a vehicle to help people get better. It could be about themselves. It could be about their game, but it goes a lot deeper than just the white ball and the stick that you're using. Don't you agree?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean,
you just have to be able to just understand, even if you don't know what's going on, you just have to know that, my mom always used to say when we were younger that, someone was nasty or whatever. She'd say, but we don't know what has gone on in their life. Maybe something horrible happened to them, and that's why they're acting that way now. We don't know. So, always have empathy. And she taught us to try and basically make those people our best friends. Like it was a game. Like, okay, fine. You know what? You want to be a jerk? Bring it on. I'm going to make you my best friend. Like,
That's awesome.
you know what I mean?
Jen's
So that
getting
was
top marks there. I tell Jen Filler,
yeah.
spurting out total knowledge. That's fantastic. I mean, you know what? But it goes without saying, right? I mean, you can take the people that may come across so gruff, so non-communicative, and really come across like they're not very nice, and people think that way, right? But it's really honestly, truly, I think it boils down to we're in the relationship business, right? And we're constantly building relationships every day, and I think that is part of the really coolness about this, that we that allows us to reach so many different people, and you especially. I mean, you have such a really cool way, because you're always bright, always cheery, you're always looking at it, and I think that empathy really shines through, right? Well, I'm not blowing smoke here, girl. It's true, right?
No, but and you would laugh, because my sisters would tell you that when I was younger, when I was, in high school and stuff, I was a huge grouch.
Like your permit was RBF, right? That was like
yeah, 100%. And I still have that a little bit sometimes, but
sure.
I did something with forget, it might have been 4A or golf.com, I don't remember, but some picture that popped up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna kill someone.
Right. You're like, right? It's like,
yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
Looking at me.
But that's I'm like, it's just my normal face. It's okay. All good. Sorry. That's my face. I think I've got a natural frown if I'm not smiling.
That's funny. Well, don't do and walk around like this every time, see what everybody does.
Yeah, exactly.
Like people look at it and you go, what is that? Right? You're crazy. Oh man. Finding your path is such a hard thing to do in golf. It literally took me getting fired from a GM role to figure out that I should be coaching golf full time. Like, honestly and truly, it's like 10 years ago, I was a GM. I get canned, put on my doorstep with boxes. And in 10 years, I've gone from, standing there wondering what I was going to do to now, talking to you on a Zoom call and, on social media, and, coaching and influencing and helping people across this planet. And, I never would have thunk it. Right. And, you recently made a decision. You made a decision in your professional career to change something. You normally have been going old, Philadelphia Cricket Club, Old Palm. So Philadelphia Cricket Club in the summer, Old Palm in the winter. But then you decided to take a office job working for a company that was going to help work towards, an LPGA Tour event and so on and so forth. But it meant you had to go work in an office behind a desk all the time. What did you realize that Nathalie should not be doing about that job?
I mean, I was working for, the reason I took the job was because I couldn't find a teaching job that was going to work for me in Tampa, and I wanted to be closer to Justin, and so made it happen. He helped me get this job, and it was working for the marketing company that is putting on the event, the LPGA Tour event that they're going to be having at Pelican now in November. So it's going to be the week after the Masters. And so, yeah, I mean, it was great. Everybody was super nice, and I was doing some of their social media stuff and trying to grow that, but I was sitting in an office, and I wasn't really getting to interact with people as much as I would like to, and I wasn't teaching golf. And so it felt like it just wasn't happy. So, I quickly realized that yes, teaching golf is what I want to do, and helping people, and went back to that. Another job that I now have fell into my lap, which was awesome. They, changed staffing and stuff there kind of in the middle of the season. So I interviewed for this spot in January and got it, which was great. So, I just was burned out, honestly, and that's why I did it. I had been going back and forth and no breaks, and it was just a lot. And I went from, so in the last year and a half before this past October, the year and a half before that, I had basically gone from Philly, directly to Florida to I think to my level 2. Yeah, to Florida, to Old Palm, and I went directly to my level 2 PGA seminar. So you're sitting in the classroom for a week and no time off between jobs. And then I started at Old Palm, and that was really, I mean, a very different job than what I had been used to, where I was more of I was doing a lot of teaching, but I was also running all of the women's programs. I was helping run, the member guests and all these things. I was working in the shop. So it was like a lot for me from what I had been used to. And so I went, go on that job, finished there, went straight to my level 3 seminar and then drove up to Philly. So then, spent another 5.5 or 6 months there teaching. So I just kind of got to the point where I was like, oh my God, I need a break.
It's like you're on a hamster wheel, right? You're on the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And you just keep going and going and going, right? And I remember you made a joke about you're like, man, I got to unpack again, or I got to pack up again. And it's like, holy smokes. It's like, wow, didn't I just get here? And I mean,
you realize how much stuff you don't need when you move every 6 months, by the way.
Right. Exactly. Right. So the interesting thing though, that I was getting at is like, it takes sometimes some little detours along your pathways to really get you to realize where you should be standing. Right. Like I know for a fact I'm not great sitting behind the desk. Doug needs to be standing out in front of everybody and throwing up all over them, because that's just the way it goes. It takes absolutely. And it's so like this stuff that I've been doing is my almost therapy, where it's like, I need the social interaction similar to how you do, because it's so important for the connection, right? It's the connection of the student, it's the connection of helping people. And really it digs into your servant heart of wanting to help people get better at something and serving others. That really digs into why we love to teach golf. So, it's really funny because you just actually really went into my next question, because it was really talking about how you were moving back and forth and all that stuff. But what do you think? All right, because you're not, you don't have to tell me, but you're not really an old person. All right, you're a very, you're a young woman, young woman.
I am not.
Pardon me?
I said I am definitely not old.
No, you're not. So you've got to, what's the pathway looking like over the next 5 and 10 years for Nathalie Filler? Like, what's the plan, Stan?
Well, I have some fun stuff in the works. I definitely want to move towards, or at least add in some more sort of, and I don't really know what the right way to describe it is. I don't want to say life coaching, because I'm 26 years old. How am I going to coach you on how to run your life? But I think that, moving towards doing some mindset coaching and not just tied into golf, but just life stuff in general is where I'm going. I had an interesting conversation this morning, actually. I'm going to be sort of testing that out with somebody, and
cool.
I think that that's going to be fun.
Great. So that's in the immediate future. It's really interesting. Mindfulness and getting people to understand how that can affect them both in their personal and professional life is really quite a niche market right now. A good friend of mine, yoga instructor, he's a great mindfulness coach who I've actually had come in and talk to my juniors. I think when you mention that, it really shows how this society, Brett McCabe talked about the 21st century athlete being so anxious, so filled with anxiety, and so needing it right now. And it takes a lot of patience to be able to sit there, put your hand on their shoulder. And he demonstrated this. He had my friend Colin on stage, and Colin was like all jittery. He was excited because he's standing on stage at the TPI booth at the PGA show with Brett McCabe. Oh my gosh, he was nervous. Brett put his hand on his shoulder. Immediately he relaxed. And Brett went on to talk a little bit about, how we need to be so much more aware of this anxiousness, this anxiety in that 21st century athlete. So what you're talking about is hitting the nail on the head. And I really think, what you're talking about could be greater. Where do you think mindfulness fits for a golfer, and how can it help them? What do you think could be something that, they could look at to make it a helpful thing for them?
I mean, there's so many things we could talk about in terms of the mental side of golf, but anxiety is definitely an interesting point that you bring up. Someone that I listen to a lot is Rachel Hollis, and she does general, you know, business coaching and all sorts of other stuff. But something that she said recently is that anxiety is literally fear of something that is probably never going to happen, which is crazy. Like, we're sitting around and we're so worried about, you know, if we apply it to golf, we're so worried that, you know, we're going to top the 3-wood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, if you top it, you're just going to go hit it again. Like, and for most people, you know, if you're teaching competitive players, that's one thing. But, you know, for the average person that, you know, I'm teaching, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, that sucks. And it's maybe, you know, it's a little embarrassing, but the only person that cares is you.
Right.
Nobody else who you're playing with cares that you topped the shot. They don't care. They're so worried about what they're doing. They don't care what you did.
Nope.
And so, you know, my college coach used to say the same thing. She'd be like, okay, you hit it in the water. What's the worst thing that happens? You're going to go drop a ball and you're going to hit it again. And then you're going to play, you know, 27 more holes. So who cares? Just stop being so afraid.
Suck it up, buttercup.
It sounds like really silly and practical, but all this anxiety and fear of like, oh, what if I don't do the thing? Or what if I hit the bad shot? Or what if I miss the putt?
Well, I think it's, you know what, it's been driven by the desire to be perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, I think we're all, TV golf, I think, hasn't done us any favors by putting out what is essentially called perfection, right? And everybody's striving to be, you know, Rory, Tiger, DJ, Lexi Thompson, Marina Fassi, you know, like, you look at these, you know, you look at this and it's like, why can't you just be the best version of you? Right? And I often think that we think we have to jam everybody in a box. And the thing is that, you know what, I'm not going to fit in a box. You won't fit in a box. You know what, we fit in our own skin because that's the way that we're going to get through everything. And I think trying to convey that message to everybody is often very hard. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that if you know, so mindfulness is a great way to do this. And I think that if you're going to do this, it's awesome. So lastly, so, you know, I kind of said like 5 years, like, you know, what are you thinking, you know, career wise here? Are you going to be like a director of instruction? Do you think you want to work towards something like that? Do you want to get a little bit more into the holistic side of things and be more of like all encompassing coach and just stay teaching and coaching?
That is a hard question for me to answer at the moment.
Okay.
I feel like I have a lot of ideas right now that are sort of
Sure.
in orbit and that are in the works. And like I said, ultimately, I want to help people in life and have a happier, more joyful life. However I can do that, outside of golf as well as within golf.
Cool.
So some of the things I'm thinking are certainly going to hopefully help with that.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, I mean, an hour flies by. Like we get going and it's like the hour's like, whoop, gone, right? It's like unbelievable. Everybody that's been watching on Facebook, I can't thank this young woman enough. Nathalie Filler, Natty Golf on Instagram. Absolutely a wonderful young woman, you know, a superstar in her own right in every way. She, like you say, you hear it right here. She loves helping people and it shows. I was so happy and so grateful and so thankful that you could come on tonight and join us. I would like to say, before we cut off, that I would like to say, I wish everybody on the front lines to stay safe, and a big shout out to our frontline workers, to everybody that's keeping us safe in this crazy time, and to continue to do so. And you're all on our minds. Thank you very much. And young lady, I hope that you continue to just keep grasping for the stars, because you're getting a lot closer every day. So I really appreciate you hanging out with me tonight, and thank you for your friendship, your being a colleague, and someone that we can always have great chats with. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. That was fun.
You're welcome. Don't go away.
Okay.